Hi, Tunde. How are you?
Hi, Nigel. I'm doing great.
Good to
How
be
are you?
back. Thanks. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm very excited about our podcast today. It's our 11th edition already.
Oh,
We forgot
it's
to mention.
11 already.
Yeah. Last week was our 10th. And for today, we prepared something cool. We're going to discuss our smart technology appliances and everything else we bring into our homes. We're going to discuss vacuum cleaners, air fryers, phones, um, maybe even my smart cat flap thing, which let my cats in and out of the house. Because there was a lot of news about smart appliances. Um, some were doing more than being smart. Like we discussed this through WhatsApp. You mentioned the vacuum cleaner, so I want to know about that. So we're going to start with some examples to set the tone, and then we're going to dive into what it means and what's good about it and what's bad about it. But the examples that run the news in the Netherlands for the last few weeks, one is there apparently is an air fryer on the market you can purchase. The air fryer has a function that connects with your phone to tell you whenever your air fried product are ready. But apart from doing exactly this, the air fryer also, uh, or the app actually on the phone with that comes with the air fryer, asks you to have permission to use your microphone, to use your camera, to use your address book, to use your internet connection, and stuff. It basically wants everything. And then when security researchers dove into what the app is doing, it's actually listening to you and sending that information back to um, the company who created this specific air fryer, which raised some concerns, obviously. Um, we go into specific vendors. Let's not start with a biased situation here, but then we had another issue with a big upcoming cheap online shop that gives you the ability to purchase a lot of cheap stuff very easily, and then it gets delivered. And this specific app was also in the news because apparently it opens your address book at night. It opens your uh, messages at night. It listens to your microphone. It can use your camera whenever it wants, and it actually does. This is information that it gathers. It's being sent home to the company that made the app and uses it for, well, could be all kinds of things, but we could assume at least for marketing purposes. Um, and then a third example, and then I'm gonna shut up a little bit and let you to it. A third example is that recently some social media app. Well, this is just I'm just gonna call this one because it was Meta apparently had to put in a court law some information about advertising. And when some people dove into all the information they shared, one of the subcontractors or customers from Meta explained how they use audio recorded by the Messenger or one of the other Meta apps to create personalized ads. So that basically gave us the answer of the feeling we have when we talk, like we do now. And I have my phone laying here. We're talking about air fry, so I'm expecting a lot of air fryer commercials or advertisements later. Because I have some of these apps on my phone, and apparently they do listen to you. And this is an iPhone, and the iPhone usually says to me when the microphone is in use, and it doesn't say it's in use right now. So I'm curious if that feature is suppressed for these apps if you allow them to use your microphone. And for example, if you use WhatsApp, which is a Meta app, you use your microphone to do speech to text, you use your microphone to have voice messages. So you'll use it in a functional way. You want it to be used in a functional way. But then the microphone is also used for stuff you don't know. And how um, yeah, legal is that? And how and where are we? But you have some examples as well. I think.
Yeah, I do have a couple of examples, but maybe just from your examples, I was just thinking, why would anyone want the air fryer to be connected to your phone? Because it doesn't really basically does nothing, right? Um, but anyway, those are kind of features that are really not needed. That we have been forced to use?
This is a fair question. I think that these vendors make appliances smart. They call them smart, but after you learn that they use the app not only to tell you when your French fries are done, uh, they also steal your privacy away by
Yeah,
listening into you. So that for them it's an extra revenue stream, right? They
yeah.
get
All these
information.
things already have like alarm set when the thing is done, right? You can hear from 3 rooms away from the kitchen. I don't think extra app on your phone to tell you your whatever you're frying is done is needed.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Fair enough.
anyway, yeah. Yeah. You were mentioning about iPhone. I have a Google phone, a Google Pixel phone, which listens to everything. Um, I think last week I was, if you're on a call, you're calling a call center and you're put on hold, and then they play music, right? There was a time I think about 2 weeks ago I was calling I think the phone company, and then I was put on hold, and then I put it on speaker because I don't want to put my phone here. So I put it on speaker on my second phone, right? I have both Samsung and Google phone.
Oh,
I was calling on the Samsung phone, so I put the Samsung phone on speaker, and they were playing this slow music that I don't even know who made the music. And my Google phone was showing me the title of the music that was playing over the phone, which was crazy. I was like, okay, so it knows the artist that made this music. So the phone listens to everything, and this is not even app based. This is the phone itself, right? You don't set the permission. Maybe there's a way to set the permission to not listen, but it comes by default to listen to what you're saying, and also to talk to the Google AI. You just say, "Hey Google," and it comes up. I think that's, yeah, exactly. See,
oh yeah.
I just say, "Hey," said, "Hey Google," and it comes up immediately. So I think Siri also works the same way, right? I'm not sure if you have to press a button. I used iPhone about 6 years ago. I don't remember how it works anymore. But all these devices are a bit too much. I think uh, 3 years ago, I kind of reduced the number of technologies that I use. The only thing I still struggle with is my phones and the media apps on them. Everything else, I have tried to reduce them. For example, I don't have a TV anymore, and I don't have interest in having a TV. I'm not sure if that would change once my son grows older. But for now, at least for the first 4 years of his life, I don't want him to watch any TV, and he's not going to use any phone as well. But that is that. But on the other hand, there's all other things that are connected with everything that you don't know. Just like the fridge, the what else? What else do I have that is kind of connected to the internet? Mostly my phone at the moment, and my laptop uh, are connected to the internet that
Uh,
collects data.
so my journey on uh, home domotica or smart home automation stuff started with open source. I built a domotics environment. I made sure that everything that was connected to it was managed by myself. It was not cloud connected per se. And it went great, but it was very high in maintenance. You had to upkeep it, update it. If new technologies came in, you had to implement it yourself. My wife wasn't very happy with it because it was hard to use. There were no real good apps at the
Oh,
time.
what was it you built?
Domotics. So I built my own alarm system for the home. I used Domotics to control my lights. Um,
Okay.
I used Domotics to monitor my energy usage and my solar panels. And now this has gotten out of hand because of two reasons. One reason is um, companies don't allow you to manage their environment often. For example, I have an LG washing machine and a fridge and an air conditioning unit that has an LG app which isn't open for through an API or whatever. They recently purchased a company called Homey, which after Domotics I switched to using Homey because Homey has an in-house local device that at first didn't need cloud access, but it has cloud access now. It's purchased by LG, and suddenly, right at that time, LG supported Homey for automation, so I can now reach my LG appliances through my Homey system, which is basically an LG system now anyway. But I also have sunscreens that are automated, and they use a different platform. I have sunscreens in my attic from Velux, a company that provides you with automation. So if the sun shines and it's hot inside, it will go down and go up, and it's all very magically done. Cloud connected, obviously, not open, not being able to manage it through the Homey Pro or use it standalone. So my house is littered with technology that does stuff, and the
Technology makes life easier.
yeah,
It's inevitable to not use technology.
I so that's the upside. The upside is I love it because it's my garden lights, my home lights. They go on, they go off. I don't have to be here to make it happen, or some of the lighting only works when I walk around, and the sensor pick me up and then go on. Um, I monitor like I said, the energy usage, the sunscreens when it's sunny, they go down, but they won't go down when it's not light out there. It's not time based, but it's also with sensors. And apart from using a lot of batteries to for all these sensors because they're usually battery based, it works great, and it gives me. I mean, I'm a nerd. I love to fiddle with it. I can make automations and mess around with it, and yeah, I also had to buy some buttons, so people that are not technology savvy and want to use just to put on the lights in the living room, yeah, my buttons didn't really work anymore because I automated it with uh, switching material connected to Z-Wave or whatever,
Do
and then you
you
had to.
clap from to turn on the light?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you had a Google Home, for example, you could say, "Hey, Google, put on my lights." I don't have that, but it's still. I could probably connect it to Siri or whatever. But the point is, the convenience is great, but the worry is obviously that well, you texted me that one of the scariest thing you can have is a vacuum cleaner robot. I have a vacuum cleaner robot, and I have one that maps my house. So it makes a 3D image of my house, so it doesn't run into the cupboard or into the seats or into the cat or whatever. But I don't know who can see those images. So I can see them in the app, and I have a floor plan of my own house in the app. And I think this is a brand that is it's a um, it's
I
sold
think
in Europe, and
most vacuum cleaners now come with cameras
yeah.
that you can also see from your phone. So
Hmm.
those are easy to get hacked
Yeah.
into. I think I was watching the news recently where uh, most of the vacuum cleaners were hacked into. Um, the vacuum robots, like the Roomba, not the Roomba company itself, but those ones, the automated ones, and also the ones you clean with your hand, but it's also connected to the internet, were hacked into, and they also used the hackers were also speaking to the owner of the house or the owner of the vacuum cleaner through the speaker
Oh my God.
and demanding for some money and some kind of thing, which was scary.
If you don't
Imagine
pay me, I'm not gonna clean your house.
Imagine sitting in your living room and your vacuum cleaner is talking to you. It's
Yeah. Well, it
pretty
already
scary.
does. I mean, there's a voice in there, and that sounds like it's a recorded voice that says, "Put me down on the floor," or "I'm stuck," or whatever. Then it will try to reach you to unstuck it. But yeah, I always wondered. I mean, it is AI driven and intelligent, so it should not drive itself stuck in the same place all the time. As a matter of fact, it doesn't work very well. It gets lost quite often. Can't find. So it's very smart and clever and sensory and everything, but it's not perfect. But still,
Yeah.
the convenience is that it finds its way around house. It's my first Roombas were just like a billiard ball on a pool table, right? It just bounces off the walls and the furniture, and this one just scans and then goes nicely, neatly, does a pattern and gives you a report of the amount of square meters that it has cleaned and everything. Um, but still,
Nice.
I think the amount of information that's being gathered from my house about the sun shine, the amount of energy used and produced, the cleanliness of my floor. I don't know where it's going. It's probably going all over the place. So if I would be able to find it,
Yeah.
it would be yeah.
I was watching the news, and so two people were living in a house, right? And this other person, one of them was getting adverts on baby stuffs, right? And this was because the they were couples, right? I think they were married couples. So I think the lady was missing a period, right, for like a few months, maybe 2 or 3 months. So our phone knew that,
Yeah.
and also maybe she was googling what happens. How do you know if you're pregnant or whatever? So they detected that, and then they checked who else. They checked where the IP was, the IP where the information was coming from, and also they checked who else was also using that, coming from that IP, using the same Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So they sent the advert to
yeah.
everybody on that IP address.
Indiscriminately. Yeah.
So the wife was searching something, and the husband was getting the advert as well. So it's crazy what they know about you
Yeah.
without even knowing anything.
No, and I think the problem is we just witnessed a election in a country that's supposed to be the country of the free. But if you know that they know everything about you and they are the technology companies or the the companies that are buying the ads to influence your behavior or your voting behavior, um, if all this information is there, you jokingly sometimes hear they know more about you than you know about yourself, and that sounds funny, but it's also true because uh, we're not always aware of how our behavior works. So, for example, in a Dutch company called Booking.com, a very well-known hotel website booking agency, got fined and hammered more than once because they used a lot of the dark pattern technology, how they call it, on their website, which makes you think you have a one-time opportunity to book a hotel room. There's just one more left. There are
Yeah,
10
one more
people
left.
looking at the same room right now. This is the lowest rate you're ever gonna get. If you don't book now, you're gonna miss out of your holiday. And it's gonna. The thing is, these are just subtle elements, and their technology and the way they built their site is so smart that it just measures on a personal level how you respond to it, and then they were able to move the information items around, make them flash or make them smaller, bigger. No person would see the same website per se, so they would just tailor.
Yeah.
They would track your mouse movements if you use a computer, or they track your scrolling speed, and based on that, they build algorithms that could do everything and anything. And maybe I'm overreacting a little bit now, and if there is someone from Booking.com listening and say, "Well, that's a bit far fetched," but at the end, if you I've been working with a cool tool like Hotjar, for example, which tracks mouse movement over a screen. You can exactly see what people do, and based on that knowledge, you can change your website. And if you are able to use that data dynamically, you can dynamically change the way the website works. And there are still, so they got fined for it and they're not allowed to do it. So if they are not the only one offering the room, they have to say, this is the only room we can offer you right now instead of that's available. So they have to be more specific, but they can still use it within the legal boundaries. And that's the thing, it influences you. And the political advertisements work the same way. The advertisement, I think if the other person in the household gets all the baby commercials, you might go like, maybe I should check my wife, what's going on. But those sounds like they're not, how do you call it? It's they're not that sensitive, but I think the sneaky issue here is the way you're being manipulated without you knowing it, because all these shards of information, they do influence your behavior and your decision making. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think even in the US election, the time Obama contested, he used the internet to, I mean, that was the time internet was kind of becoming mainstream. And he discovered that younger people are, what was the famous social media back then? I think it was it Vine or MySpace or something back then? I don't remember exactly, but he used that platform
Yeah.
to engage the youth.
Yeah.
And that was the way he was able to win the election back then.
Yeah.
And even recently, Trump had to go on a few famous podcasts,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Rogan
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
some other guys' podcasts
But
to influence people.
But those are the very visible things, and that's good. I mean, that's campaigning, right? He's going there, he shows himself, he tells his story, and people go for it. But we had this thing in Europe around Brexit where there was a company called Analytica. I don't know even the exact name, but that company specialized in micro targeting. So what they would do, they would figure out who was prone to go vote for Brexit on the Leave. This company was hired for the Leave campaign. They would figure out which people would vote in that direction or would be influential to be voting in that direction, and they would target them specifically, individually, on the social media platforms they use, websites they use, and feed them information that made them move away. And that meant that because they would be only seeing that information and seeing that advertisement and everything, the rest of the population wasn't really aware of what was happening. So it was a bit of a surprise that suddenly there was a large group of people influenced by that, and they had a certain idea of what Brexit meant for them and what it would bring them, and which wasn't it was completely different from what the rest of the people in the population would expect. And I saw the same thing in the Dutch elections, where I never saw certain advertisements for certain political parties because I didn't fit in their profile anyway. I'm probably too much on a certain spectrum, so they went like, he's never going to vote for us anyway. Never going to target him. While I heard other people talk about, I might consider voting on this party because I got the information about this party and it was interesting, and I wonder what you feel about it. I said, I have no idea. I've never seen anything from him, not once. And obviously, if you go looking for it on social media platforms, you become part of their bubble, and that bubble starts flooding your timeline as well, and you get the information. And the downside about this is that we all live in our own bubble. We're all being targeted individually. So the fragmentation of the So for the marketing purposes, for selling equipment, I have no interest in baby stuff anymore because I don't have babies. So that I don't get the baby stuff, and you have a baby, so you do want the baby stuff maybe. That's fine. I mean, but it also has a downside that if you have a certain political view standpoint, you're going to end up in your bubble. I'm going to end up in my bubble, and the chances are we're never going to be able to discuss it because we're never going to meet. Yeah, we meet now, but we have something in common, like presenting this podcast and be friends. But if you don't, so how are we going to work with that? That's one of the downside I see. we live our separate lives, and we get fed different information, and yeah, we are one society.
And in terms of that, you also, when you believe in something, you go deeper into that, and then you are fed with that kind of information, so you never know the other side. So when you are, because I believe, if you believe in something, right, you want to see the opposite of it. If it's probably true. I mean, this is like science, right? You want to see if what you believe in is actually true or authentic, or there is an alternative to what you already believe in. But with the data or the internet or your information online that you have, you are now focused on one side because they keep feeding you the same information based on your search history, based on your whatever data they have about you, and you don't get to see the other side of what you believe in.
You're right. This is the whole issue. That's
right. You don't get to see the other side, and that is
So that's the core of critical thinking, which you're now, and that's why academic behavior is something you need to learn, because that's not how people standard work. So you say you believe you need to do it, but I think many people don't believe that they should do it, and they're being fed information that fits their narrative, and it just makes them go deeper into the narrative. So chances are that if you, with your perspective, end up talking to someone with another perspective that had been force-fed all that information all the time that fits their narrative, you're never going to change their mind, because they already made up their mind, and they got like a million data points fed into them that they have a certain belief, and that must be true because they don't see anything else all day long.
That's how you become an extremist in a specific topic, right?
Yeah, but this is how our vulnerability, how we psychologically work, and how we actually lose our ability to actually be a critical thinker, is part of our online being. And if data that is being collected from my air fryer is being used for this, I don't know, but I do know that the amount of data that's being collected is so huge and the amount of energy these companies put in profiling you and trying to figure out how to influence you, like the Booking.com situation, which, I mean, if you go to the website and you are a little bit cynical about this, and you go like, what, 3 rooms available? Really? You go on and you go to, I don't know, Expedia or another hotel booking site, and you see that there are like 8 rooms available. You go like, oh.
Yeah.
But you have to do that. And if you are, hey, I had the same thing with my wife. We want to book for next summer, for God's sake. But you have to book in advance because summer school holidays, right? Yeah. Okay. We found a spot. We went over it, and it said early booking discount, 10% or from 20%. So my wife thought, oh, that's just going to run for 3 days, so we might have to book early. And the 3 days went by and we forgot to book. My fault. So sorry. So I felt a bit guilty about not using that early booking discount. So I went to the website. I started a new anonymous browser because I wanted to have a clean slate. And I went to it. I entered the booking information. I got the same price without the same early booking discount. So I asked, what was your, and she had screenshots. She said, no, with the discount, it's going to be like this. And I'm like, well, without that discount, I still pay the same price. We're being fooled. So this is just an industry standard. So they're creating urgency for my wife to want to book. And
I think Temu does the same thing a lot. You get a lot of discount, like 90% discount and 80% discount. You have like 1 hour to book and order and this and get that.
Just 3 left.
Yeah.
Do you believe it?
3 left. And then you don't do it. 2 days later, you go back and check the item itself. It's just the same price with the discounted price.
Yeah, we're being fooled, and we're falling for it. It's actually so bad, especially in the Netherlands. We are very well known for our discount life, and it's now even so bad that if I go to a supermarket and I purchase a deodorant from a famous brand, I would probably pay around 5 to 6 euros for a deodorant. And if you go to Germany and you go to a regular shop, you would pay probably around 3 euros for the same deodorant, which is the normal price for deodorant, 3.5 euros maybe. And then you wonder why. Because in the Netherlands, if they want to really sell a lot of deodorant, they have to do a lot of two for the price of one. So you go to the shop, you go like, whoa, 6 euros for deodorant, I'm not going to do that. Next week, you come back, they have the two for the price of one, and you get four. And they just sell four deodorants for the same price as they would sell a single one in Germany. So people that are shopping across the border a lot figured out that a lot of the pricing in the Netherlands seems to be based on the fact that we need the two for the price of one, or 50% discount, or four for the price of two. And then they just calculate that in, because companies are not stupid. They just want to make the same profit, and they don't care about how. So their marketing departments just uses tools to analyze exactly which. So if you know it's usually like 6 euros, you go, oh, 6 euros, that's expensive. And you can get it for the normal price, which looks like a discount. You go for the discount, obviously. So it's human behavior. It's normal, but yeah, it's also problematic.
I think it was it CNN or something was doing an episode on US supermarkets, and they found out that most of the labels inside the supermarket that says 20% off, 30% off, or whatever it's not real. So they just hike the price and then put the label there and say it's discounted, but it's not discounted. It's the same price. And speaking of data collection, I always wondered, because I understand, you use Facebook, they collect your data, they advertise on Facebook, you watch the advertisement, they get paid, you use it for free, whatever. But WhatsApp is 100% free. There is no advertisement. How are they making money to I know they are collecting data, but what kind of data are they collecting, and who are they feeding it to, and how are they making the money to keep the application running? I've always wondered about that. I haven't researched it, but
that's an
it bugs
interesting
me.
one. I know that they have a long, very long streak of ideas. So the thing is, Meta once bought WhatsApp even before it made any revenue. So it was just an investment vehicle of having millions and millions and millions of people using your system. So the value, previously was the fact that everyone was using it. And with the end-to-end encryption they have in place, they probably won't be able to see what you type. I think that's the illusion that they give us. I'm not sure about that, but they can't read the group chats because you can't have end-to-end encryption there that easily. So they were experimenting with placing ads in group chats, and they are expanding
That's
communities. Yeah, that's one of the things they are figuring out, how to make some money with the tool. I think one of the benefits we have is that there is a lot of competition. I mean, you have Signal and Telegram, and they do basically the same thing, and they're basically for free as well, or have a donation system or something. So I think Meta is still using it to keep you tied into the Meta sphere, and they hope that if you use the Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or one of the other Meta platforms. I don't know exactly how they do it. Maybe in the US they have a way of using the data more. In Europe they're not allowed to. And I think if they would integrate WhatsApp more into the Meta sphere or the Facebook apps, or we would get into trouble. So maybe they're figuring that out. So it's interesting.
I'm sure they're collecting a lot of data and probably using that data on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Well, one of the things they absolutely do is if I go to Facebook, I rarely use Facebook, but if I do use it, and then it instantly says, here are people you might want to add to your network. And they're usually numbers I recently added to my phone. So WhatsApp has access to my address book, and so has Facebook. And that's something, that's probably there's a setting somewhere that I can disallow it or whatever. But yeah, that's probably one of the things that's happening. Um, but yeah, I mean, legislation is an interesting thing. I was discussing the Timu example, and is not Timu bashing per se, but Timu has made it easy for them to be bashed right now by what they're doing. But one of the things he mentioned, he is an investigator for the Dutch authority on safety for stuff you buy. We have an organization that's checking whether the public health and public safety isn't being threatened by things that are being sold on the market. So they're a watchdog basically. One of the things he said is we're an open market. So basically, you can come here, you can say, "Oh, I'm gonna sell stuff to the public," and that's it. So Timu came here and started selling stuff to the public, and suddenly we're being flooded in a dark pattern way with the bad advertisement, which isn't allowed, with yeah, stuff that's probably not legally to sell here because it's toxic or it's not safe or it doesn't have the required certifications to be sold here. So they just did it, but the system works the other way around. You don't come to the Netherlands or Europe and you say, "Hey, listen, I want to sell something. Am I allowed to do that?" No, you can just go here and sell it because it's an open market. And then the watchdog goes, "Oh, what are you selling? Is that safe? Are we sure we want this? Or should we allow this?" So now, after a few years of Timu crap flood, when they sold a lot of stuff, and we had some incidents of things being children's toys being toxic or things not being safe. They're certainly investigating it, but they're basically doing it trend based. So they're looking on social media now. What is the trend? What is everyone buying? Oh, we should purchase that as well at Timu and check if it's safe, and then go to Timu and
But
say,
can they regulate what Timo is selling? Because there are a lot of sellers in there. It's like Amazon. I'm not sure they can regulate whatever you buy on Amazon. It's just
"Yeah,
there.
but that's the thing. They can and they will, but it works like this. This is the regulations. You have to abide to the regulation." And Timo says, "Oh yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we'll look into that someday." And they keep, because they are working on a marketplace system. That's what they hide. We're just a marketplace. We cannot take responsibility. And you just keep sending all the stuff out, and you keep buying that. And after a few incidents, the European Union will start a platform-based investigation. Is it structural behavior? And then they need to prove that it's structural behavior, not incidental behavior. And they're selling illegal shit on a structural basis. And then they get these. That's why some of these companies that keep doing this get these high fines, because then it's a structural buildup of things. We have the same thing basically with things that are legal in Europe but not legal in the Netherlands, like fireworks. You can just order them online and they would send to the Netherlands. And we have all kinds of problems with fireworks here. But it's not illegal to sell them in other places of Europe. And we have open borders, so they could just send it around. Or vaping. Vaping is a big issue because children are very vulnerable to using vape because they taste like candy, apparently. And they are not allowed anymore here. But vaping is still exploding. It's illegal to sell these, especially to children. And the primary schools are being flooded with vapes.
There's a series on Netflix, How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. Have you
Yeah.
watched it?
No.
I think there are German high school guys, I think high school or university students trying to make money online. So they were buying drugs from the Netherlands
Yeah.
and selling it in Germany, and they were selling it online. It was an interesting
Okay, I'll have
series,
to look into
but
that. But I absolutely believe it's really easy. And I think the challenge for a European Union is how to keep the open character of the society alive, but the influencing that you see in Europe, but also in America as an open country or an open society, is so data is being used against you. The fact that it's open is being used against you in the way that you go to a website and you go like, oh, this looks nice, I'm going to order it. But in the meanwhile, it poisons your kids because it's not safe at all. But they won't tell you.
Mhm.
They won't abide to the regulation you are trusting. And I think the trust in the system will diminish when we don't find a way to maintain that. I mean, why? Yeah, if everything is going to be a problem, if you have to do your own research, like a famous quote
Yeah.
of dummies on the internet, yeah, well, how are you going to do your research when you can't trust anything anymore? So establishing that base of trust, I think that's, but also regulatory bodies like this watchdog, like, yeah, they need to hammer down on the influx of illegal shit. They need to hold. So it took like 10 years for AliExpress to pay VAT, so the local tax, have a return policy in place that is actually working. So I can now send back. That's a law in Europe. If you sell something online and you don't like it, you can send it back, and you have to take it back as a shop. That's just, and they didn't do that. So it was just one way traffic. They didn't pay tax, didn't have to, and they always say, "Man, we're from China." So, no, if you sell something in Europe, you have to abide to these regulations. And now they do it, and now you see that AliExpress isn't that cheap anymore. And now is there a new kid on the block, Temu, does the same thing as Ali did 10 years ago. Doesn't pay tax, doesn't abide to regulatory stuff. So I do think that the European Union will step up quicker because they now have experience dealing with AliExpress. But yeah, just
But I think they'll get some pushback from the buyers because items on Temu is extremely cheaper compared to every other
yeah.
platform. So if people get cheap stuff, they don't care if it's good or bad. They just want to buy it and
Oh
keep
no,
buying more.
I absolutely agree. I'm going to tell you another story about this. We have a lot of famous classic retailers that have existed for over 100 years. They go bankrupt the last 5 years. So last week, one of the biggest retailers in the Netherlands, a famous like a shop where you go for your household appliances like an air fryer called Blokker, they went bankrupt. And there is one chain of shops that is growing rapidly throughout Europe that started in the Netherlands as well. It's called Action. And Action basically sells whatever AliExpress has as a leftover. So the shop is basically filled with cheap overstock. That's how it started. Now they have more of a standard assortment, but now it's filled with cheap Christmas decorations and right. But that shop is just focused on one thing and one thing only: cheap. So if you buy something now and it's out of stock, it might never return, and you know that. And if you go there with a bag and you fill the bag and you go to the counter and you pay everything, you got a bag full of stuff. You go like this with your bag, and you pay €9, right? So it's very cheap. You have a bag full of shit for €9. You come home, half of it will break down in a few days, or it's not the quality that you might want it to be. But then you go, yeah,
Mhm.
I paid like a few bucks, so yeah, what could I expect, right? So that going down that rabbit hole of wanting everything very cheap, I'm not sure if that's actually what we want, but it is what's happening.
Well, cheap is attractive, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you already live in a society where everything is expensive. So if something is suddenly cheap, people will
Oh,
gravitate
and
towards that.
I can complain about this all the time, but I go to the Action basically every week. If I need anything for my household, I just go there and pick it up. And I know some of the stuff you have to just, yeah. But yeah, on the other hand, I mean, a charging cable for my phone it costs you like €1. I don't even bother to order it on AliExpress. It's cheaper at that shop. And yeah, maybe after you use it a couple of times, it breaks down. Yeah, but the original cable also breaks down. So, but that costs
Yeah,
€20. I can buy 20 cables. you know, that's the whole. It's not very sustainable, but this is how your mind works. You give in to that. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
well.
true.
But we're still being spied on by my vacuum. I'm gonna stare at my vacuum cleaner with big distrust now. So this is an interesting case. I don't know if regulatory, um, yeah, if that's going to be the way forward, having more regulation about privacy. We have GDPR, we have safety standards, we have all of it, but still, it's an issue. So
Yeah, people always find a way to bypass the law when they are doing business. So
yeah,
that's why
well,
lawyers make money.
that's right. And we do have one thing that's coming. If you sell something in Europe, I don't know if that's law is already in effect or it's soon going to be in effect. But if you sell something smart, which has software in it, you're not only obligated to maintain the functioning of the device, but also of the software. So you'll have to upkeep it for security and for at least the lifespan. So, for example, if you sell a phone, you can't go like, well, we'll provide security updates for 2 years. Now, if the expected lifespan of an appliance could be like 5 years, then you'll have
Mm.
to provide security updates and stuff like that for at least 5 years, which is, I think, it's going to be very hard to verify all the time, but at least it's a starting point where you can just flood the market with smart devices, which are like the IoT stuff, which is easily hacked and such. Um, this is a regulation to prevent that, basically.
I see.
You don't look convinced.
But I'm just thinking, uh, with the amount of data being collected, and it's not slowing down. They collect everything that I don't know how many terabytes of data about me is in multiple databases right now. But I mean, just by walking, your phone knows you're walking or driving or running or whatever you do. It knows everything. It knows when you go to bed, when you sleep. I check my phone sometimes and it says, were you sleeping at this time, between this time and this time? And it was accurate. I wasn't setting anything. How does it know when I was sleeping?
That's what I say. Having enough data means if you combine that and you use the right algorithms, whoever they are, know more about you than you know about yourself.
Yeah.
And then they can use that in your advantage to get my sunscreens down or put my lighting on or arrange my heating. But they could use it against you to influencing you in your voting behavior or your buying behavior.
And the scary part is with the AI that we have now, it becomes extremely dangerous, right? If
Mm-hmm.
they have all that data about you, I mean, they can they can use algorithms and everything, but with AI introduced, it's going to be extremely dangerous. They can completely clone you and do whatever they want with you.
Yeah,
Commit a crime,
it's
take you
the
at hostage.
yeah, it's the evolution of micro targeting, where they made profiles of individuals. They can now basically have a personalized experience tailored on influencing you, and not you as part of a group. No, just you. Which means that you are probably gonna have even less control over your own decision making, because maybe I'm not very vulnerable to the normal advertising, but I'm probably have my weak spot somewhere else, and this algorithm is gonna figure that out and gonna use it to sell me shit or make me do things, or yeah,
Yeah,
or
and
hopefully.
speaking of data collection, there is I heard there's a company now that allows you to record a few videos of someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And after the person passes away, the AI will generate the avatar of that person, and you can interact with that person. So that company was encouraging, I think it's a Chinese company, I'm not sure, was encouraging people to make sure they have enough video and audio of their people
Mm-hmm.
so that when they pass away, they can start interacting with them, and the AI will have the emotion and the way of speaking and everything of that person. So And I was listening to a podcast, I think a few days ago, and someone was saying people started using it, and they were actually very impressed about how they were able to the accuracy of this thing for a while. But after about a couple of weeks of them using it, they noticed that the emotion wasn't that accurate. But this is very early. I don't know
Well,
how. Imagine what it will be in the next 5, 10 years, right?
yeah. So, like 10,000 years ago, we were roaming this planet in groups of people, hitting each other with rocks over the head and having to scavenge food every night. And over 100 years ago, we started flying, and now we are making virtual copies of ourselves that can evolve. So, like 4 years ago, I wrote an article about the evolution of people. It was just an idea I suddenly had, like our that has to do with the virus outbreak and such. Our physical appearance, like it is right now, our body is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, in outer space, for example, if we need to travel to Mars, there's not a problem except our human existence. We're not made to float around in space. Well, what if we could download everything in your head um, through whatever means by figuring it out externally, making an algorithm or an AI as you, or even being able to read your brainwaves or download whatever is in your
You
head.
have Neuralink line now, right?
For example,
And
so it doesn't really matter how, but we figure out a way to do that. So you're going to sit in a chair for an hour. They download your brain. They have we have all these episodes of this podcast. We let the AI listen to that, and that it's going to mimic you. It's going to know what you know. It's going to have the same memories, and then we put it in a system that's not vulnerable to space travel. And we're going to send you to Mars. You're going to be the first Mars explorer, but you're also going to be a dude on the planet which is still in flesh and blood because it's just a copy. Um, what does it mean for the future of the humans if we say, well, it's all about the human mind, our intelligence, our soul, whatever it is? Um, can we live further in a system? Maybe we can rid ourselves of our. I mean, if we burn out this planet, we use all the resources, we're going to have a problem that we need oxygen and we need to have a stable environment. But if we just mess that up, but we don't even need that anymore because we can live in the evolution of a AI or whatever. That's an interesting thought I had about this. So maybe our there's a lot of people dreaming to live forever, right? But I don't think
Mhm.
we can live forever in our physical appearance. But I think we can live forever when we just download whatever we know and who we are and everything that happens in our brain, which in my belief makes what we are. I don't think we have an
But is that really you? If your brain is downloaded into a software and you are, let's say, in the future, in some way, we can download as a consciousness, right?
Mhm.
Not just the memory. We can download the consciousness into software,
Yeah.
but you will be stuck in a device unless maybe they download you into a robot, a
Yeah.
robotic device that
Yeah.
can walk around and do whatever. But still, that doesn't. I don't think I want to be stuck in a robot. I
No,
just
no.
want to be gone.
I mean, the thing is, if you, it's a bit of a philosophical thought where you accept the fact that everything you are is based on signaling in your brain. So if you would find a way to read not only all your memories but also the connections, because all the connections and all the input that we get, they make what we feel and what we think and everything. So if you could replicate it somehow, you could download it into a system or into a robot or into whatever way we figure that out. It could also be in a virtual environment where you think you're still alive, like the Matrix, right? That's groundbreaking film for the time, because it is about this. How we're going to convince people to live on in a virtual environment, which isn't real. But we need to convince people that they're real, so they keep behaving in a natural way. So I don't know how, but this is
Th-
basically
th-
the
This is why some scientists think we are in a simulation. So
Yeah, because but that's the academic thinking. We can't prove we're not. It's not that they think we are, but they can't prove we're not. Because if the simulation is really good, we can't prove we're in a simulation.
We can't prove it, and then we create another simulation, and then that simulation becomes very smart. Also, they create another simulation, so it's an unending loop of
the matrixception. Then we have the combination of inception and the matrix. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, 100 years ago we weren't even flying, and now we have computers and everything. And the last like 10, 20 years, a lot happened on deep learning and AI. So let's see what happens the next 10 to 20 years. If we don't massively wipe ourselves out, because in the meanwhile, people start doing dumber stuff than ever. So yeah,
with AI doing everything, people are going to have less work to do, so they get bored and then they create a mess. Yeah, that's what happens.
Yes, without purpose, we create a mess. That's something that happens. Oh well, that's Stephen Hawking wrote about the chances of us wiping ourselves out, right? So that's an interesting. The theory is, why haven't we found other intelligent species? And then the theory is because they, one way or the other, when they evolve, they find a way to accidentally wipe themselves out. So that's the same as the theory about we're living in a simulation. We cannot prove it didn't happen. So it's still a theory, and that's the same with the intelligent life forms. As long as we haven't found another one, this might just be the case, because in theory there should be thousands of other smart life forms like us, because they're based on the carbon, oxygen life cycle thing, because there are thousands of planets that or solar systems that might provide the same evolutionary chances of something like this happening. Or there's still dinosaurs.
With the news coming from the US, was it last week or this week? There are aliens in the oceans, right?
Yeah, the unidentified stuff. Yeah. Well, maybe we do find them, and they're laughing their ass off from what we're doing to ourselves, and they're still wondering: should we help them? Or should we just make fun of them? I have a guinea pig in a cage, and we're like their guinea pig, and the cage is Earth. You're just looking at us.
Exactly.
Fucking idiots. We gave them all kinds of science, and they're not even using it. Because that's a funny thing. In certain moments of time, there's a certain explosion of knowledge and development in science and in everything. And it's always the question how this has suddenly happened. And there are some theories that go like, no, that was planted. We were given the hint. It was something that was, it
was the aliens. They were feeding us everything. They were giving us like 0.001% of what they know.
Yeah.
And then we think we are smart.
They nudged, and then suddenly, we invented shit. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's wrap this up.
We should have an episode on conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be fun. And then, but there are a lot of podcasts about that. I'd rather not fall in that rabbit hole, but it's an interesting one to figure out conspiracy theories that ended up being true, because those are there as well.
Yeah, there are.
There's a lot of focus on the crazy stuff, but the whole thing about UFOs, the fact that the American government has published a lot of actual UFO encounters that they cannot explain is quite funny. And certain things are hard to explain, and certain things sometimes are suddenly explained by science, but the things they are sharing are the ones that they couldn't explain, and they're still happening. So who knows?
Yeah. And actually, they're not sharing a lot of things. According to one of the people that was working with, NASA? They were unable to share some information because they knew about those information in a very wrong way. So, for example, the US and Russia are not in speaking terms, right? I'm just speaking an example.
Mm-hmm.
So, if, let's say, the US developed an airplane that cannot be detected in the airspace through the radar, right? And then they wanted to spy on Russia and see what Russia was doing. So they flew that plane on Russia airspace a couple of times. And now they find something in Russia and they go take a look and they find out these are not humans, these are not Russians, these are UFOs, right? So they cannot share that information because
no,
they found out in a legal way.
Well, that's the thing. If you look at the map of the UFO detections, they're all concentrated in the US. Like that's the only place where UFOs were appeared.
Yeah,
but that's
exactly.
probably not true. That's probably has to do with a bias where they only want to share those. And maybe there were UFOs elsewhere and they found them or others found them, but they just don't want to talk about it. Don't want to share that they could or that they had. Yeah. No, that's interesting. We're always working with a lack of information. And that's why these conspiracy theories can emerge, because you get a shard of information and then you try to fill in the rest. That's how your brain works. And no one's going to tell you what is actually happening because they don't want to. So you get all the freedom of the world to make up the story. And sometimes it's very disappointing when you learn about the story, the actual story. And sometimes it might be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
This is not only the 11th one, it is possibly also the longest one. So I hope
the longest, I guess, yeah.
People will our one listener, thank you for staying with us until the end.
Thank you very much.
I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.